What is up, guys? CM back again with another World Tanks tank review for you guys. I know it's been a while, but I do apologize. I've not had a ton of energy over the last week to make videos. But we're back. We've got another tank for you guys. This time, the Tier 9 Object 257 Russian heavy tank. This leads on to the IS-7 at Tier 10. This is actually a pretty good tank. It's not as strong as people thought it would be when it first popped up, though. I'm going to show you guys why. Now, I'm going to start with weaponry. You do have a 122mm gun, as is typical. You've got a couple of good pen values, 248 on standard APCR, and you've got 315 on premium heat. And then you've got your HE, which is 68mm of pen. Your APCR and your heat both do 440 alpha, and your HE does 530. The APCR shell velocity is actually really good. I'm going to jump to that for a second. 1259 is fantastic. You don't need to give a ton of lead with that. The heat isn't even that slow. 900 meters a second isn't that bad. And the HE is kind of potato, though, at 700 meters a second. But most of the time, honestly, the standard ammo will do you just fine against most targets that you'll fight. Obviously, you'll fight some that are a little tougher. That's when you take the heat. As for everything else, we'll move on to the rate of fire. Base reload with a 100% crew is 12.46 seconds, which is nothing special actually at this tier. Your DPM is not the highlight of this vehicle. It's not a high DPM tank, and I can get with Bounty Rammer, Brothers in Arms, Food, and the Directive for buffing your gun rammer even further. I can get that down to 9.96 seconds, which is a lot better, but it's obviously nothing special when it comes to DPM at this tier. As far as heavy tanks go, there are definitely other tanks that do that better. 440 alpha is fairly standard as well. It's not the highest at the tier, it's not the lowest for a heavy tank. However, this gun is a little derpy. You've got a 2.78 second aim time there. That's with a 100% crew. Base is 2.9. 0.4 base dispersion. 0.38 with a better crew. And yeah, your soft stats are nothing special, but it's going to be this aim time and dispersion combined that are going to kind of frustrate you a little bit as far as aiming in. It does take a while to aim in. And being a 122, however, there's going to be a lot of tanks that you can overmatch, particularly the Swedish memes. And shoot those guys in the lower plate, you're basically guaranteeing it'll pen. Moving on to your ammo capacity, you've only got 40 shells, so I run this with 20 APCR, 18 heat, and 2 high explosive, mainly because I find that if I take too many high explosive shells expecting squishy targets, I'll sacrifice too much in terms of APCR or heat in case I have to fight more heavily armored vehicles, which, to be honest, you're more likely to fight, at least up close and personal, in a knife fight with this thing than you are a squishy tank. Your mobility next. Now, it does have a top speed of 50 kilometers an hour. You're never going to hit that reliably. While it does have a power to weight of 15, your ground resistances will counter that somewhat. It does have pretty bad ground resistances, even for a heavy. So I find you'll average about 30 to 35. You'll hit that 50 when going down a slight slope, though. So there are times when you'll hit it, but not that often. A reverse speed of 15 kilometers an hour, though, that's pretty nice. So you can pull back out of cover, or into cover rather, pretty quickly if you've taken a shot or if you fired your gun. You've got 15 degrees of gun elevation and 5 of gun depression, which is fairly standard for Russian tanks. You know, you can't really point the gun up and down too much, but it's okay as far as Russian tanks go. There's definitely worse. And I'll move on to the armor in a little bit. You've got 1900 health with the top turret, which is not bad. You can buff this with the, with the improved hardening, but personally I don't find that to be useful in this tank, as far as gun marks are concerned. I run vert stabs in the first slot, and then currently I'm running bond optics, so I'm running the experimental optics in the second slot, and the improved bounty rammer, where is it, this one, in the third slot, as well as food here, and of course I've got a really good crew. But this is still a decent chunk of health, for sure. I'm not too disappointed with this at all. Your engine is pretty healthy, 360 engine health. Like, tracks are pretty difficult to track in a single shot unless you got a really big gun. I do find this tank does like to get ammo racks, but I think that's more down to where the ammo racks are and where people tend to shoot you, more than the ammo rack health itself. I haven't been set on fire much in this tank, so, you know, it's not too bad. I don't find it catches fire much at all. Obviously, you've not got any camo because it's heavy, but it does have a pretty nice base view range of 390. With my bond optics and then the view range skills, brothers in arms, food, I get 499 meters view range. So let's move on to the armor model. So you do have 130 millimeters on your upper plate, like it suggested before. That equals out to at most 300 effective, at worst 267, and that's as long as people are on even footing with your gun. If they're not shooting down on you too much. If people are shooting down, this is not super strong. So if a tank is taller, then your upper plates are not super strong. And if you angle, obviously you make these weaker, because it is, like a lot of Russian heavies, a pike nose design. So if you can see as I angle like that, it becomes weaker. Especially up here and right here. Now, why do I say up here? Because if you're side scraping, that's where people are gonna shoot you. That ends up being about 220, 200, depending where on there they shoot you. So there's a lot of tier 8s that will go through that. Some tier 7s, if they are loading premium, for example, the T29 will go through that with premium. So yeah, careful how you angle is what I'm gonna say first off. If you're wiggling this tank, however, this will throw people off quite a lot. If you're approaching someone, they're aiming at you, and you're wiggling your hull, this will distract people quite a lot. It can throw people's shots off. Your lower plate isn't super strong either. It gets better at an angle, of course, but if you're just like going straight towards someone, it's about 210 to 220 effective. So don't expect that to really bounce much. I'm going to go to the turret front next before I go on to the side armor. The side armor on the hull is going to be one of the last things I'll cover. I'll do the turret next. Your turret front is pretty strong, but you do have some parts where certain rounds can go through. And I'll move on to the actual roof of the tank in a moment. So you can see next to the gun here, if someone's using a very high pen gun and gets really lucky with their shot, they can go through right here. I actually had an STRV 103 load gold ammo, and he just went right through here at about, must have been about 200 meters, something like that. They're not really gonna pen you here, like no one's gonna actually hit that as much. So, you know, for the most part, your turret front is impenetrable, but there's, you know, the odd bit where you can get unlucky here and there, like I did. But otherwise, you're pretty strong. And one thing to bear in mind as well is that you can see this plate here. I'm moving on to the roof here. So you've got your cupolas. They're your main weak spot, to be honest. They can bounce some shots at an angle, but for the most part, most tanks you meet are just going to go right through them. If they can get a shot on them, of course, which is going to be partly down to luck. However, this plate right here, you can see that goes kind of like right along here, out to the front of the turret here, and then back up and round. You can see that kind of roof section there, the roofs of the cupolas. That's all 30 millimeters. Now that means that tanks that have a shot at that, so basically anyone that's not below you, will be able to shoot this, and if they have a gun that's bigger than 90 millimeters, that will auto-pen. That can happen quite a bit if someone has a good shot on your cupolas. If they're aiming here, there's a chance that they'll hit here and pen that automatically if they're firing AP or APCR. The sides of the turret can be quite troll, however. If you look at that, they're actually 180 millimeters thick in some places, some even more, and it's still a little bit angled and rounded, so, you know, you're talking about 220 to 230 average in some places even stronger, and a little bit weaker back here, but that's when you're basically getting onto the rear of the turret itself at that point. So the sides of the turret can be a little bit troll, so keep that in mind when you're shooting at one of these, that the sides of the turret are not super weak unless you've got a pretty high pen round. And that goes with the sides of the cupolas here as well. If you look at that, that's pretty strong as well. Obviously, rear of the turret, rear of the hull, both weak, so if you get the back of this thing, you're probably going to pen it. Moving on to the side armor of the hull. Now, this is the interesting part about this tank. You do have pretty strong upper side armor. Obviously, if someone gets it flat, then, you know, they're going to pen that. There is a little bit of spaced armor around here. However, as you can see, it doesn't really have much of an angling going on, so there's a chance people can pen that if they're flat on. But if you're angled, then yeah, that's just going to absorb rounds. Even if you're like this, then that spaced armor will just suck up a whole bunch of different ammo. And now, getting onto the lower side, which is partially covered by the spaced armor and the tracks. But that's all 45 millimeters behind there. If someone's firing at the side with a very large caliber gun, so like a 150 or even a 140 or bigger, they're just going to auto-pen that with AP or APCR. So for example, the Conway, the big gun on that, if they fire AP at the side armor, yep, they're going to go through that, no problem. Most of the time, however, people will just bounce because there's a lot of guns that are not going to pen that. So the Russian 130s and the 122s, the 105mm guns, 120mm guns, 90mm guns, all of those, they'll just bounce off of that. As long as a gun is 136mm in caliber or bigger, however, then they can just auto-pen that with AP or APCR. Does not matter the effectiveness because they'll just overmatch. That's one thing that you have to bear in mind. Don't just go up against things like T30s or Guerrilla 15s or T95s expecting to bounce every shot, because you won't. This is something I actually see players in 257s doing. They think, oh, I've got this hyper-angled armor like the T22 medium. I'm just gonna YOLO everything. No. There's a reason why this tank does not have super high gun mic requirements, and it's because people try and use it in a much more aggressive role than they really should be. Because as you've seen now, the armor is nothing special. Even at this tier, there are definitely tanks that are a lot stronger. Ones that are also more mobile as well. Ones that are stronger hull down, ones that are, you know, stronger in terms of hull. What this one can do very well, however, is reverse side scrape against tanks that have guns that cannot overmatch. So if I just like point the gun over the back of the tank like this. So this is something I did on Paris recently. This is not going to be in the replay, but you can see that if I'm shooting at someone that's on a corner, my gun will show first before this bit here, which is weak at this angle. But all the rest of it, as long as they're not using a gun that has a caliber of 136 or bigger, then yeah, they're not going to go through that. That's just going to be an auto bounce, even if they're firing heat. Because it's such an extreme angle that it even hits an auto bounce angle for heat, which is a more extreme angle than the auto bounce angle for AP or APCR. So keep that in mind. This tank is a very, very strong reverse side scraper. Now moving on to the match. So this is on Mines. It's a tier 9 match. North spawn. This is going to be the highest damage match that I got in this tank so far. As of recording this, I haven't got the 3rd mark yet, but I am very, very, very close. If you're watching this on the day that I'll be uploading, then I will possibly have done it. Depends on if I have streamed after recording this. So I've noticed that a lot of mediums are going down the one line. I start going up to the hill with my teammates because the G-Sor has not spotted anyone going up either. So I think, okay, the enemy lights and mediums are not contesting the hill, so why don't I contest the hill? So that's exactly what we do. We're just going to speed this up a bit. There's the IS-3 and the lightweight down to our right there. We just go straight past because they're not going to do anything to us. And we're just going to maneuver into position to start getting shots on the M103 and the 53 TP in the city. And of course the E75 if we can. Now we're going to see this gun. That was a bad shot by me. That was nothing to do with the gun. We're going to see this gun kind of troll us a little bit here and there. So we've got a nice easy shot on the M103 cupola. And of course it bounces off of the cupola at an extreme angle. A little unfortunate there. Teammates are starting to shoot at enemy tanks in the enemy base. And of course, let down again. That was aimed at the side of the hull. Unfortunately, it goes into the upper plate, I think, or even the turret front. I can't quite remember exactly where that hit. Now we spot the enemy 257. We can see that he is using the stock turret. We do actually hit the back of his tank this time. A little bit of a low roll, but we'll take the damage. Looking for the shot on the 53 TP or M103. Get the shot on the M103 finally. Another low roll, but not by as much this time. That E75 TS is unfortunately in a bad spot here. So we're going to try and help him. Finally get a shot on the 53. Put one into his side. That's a high roll finally. T-54 is trying to shoot us, but he's not going to have a chance to. Now looking for a shot on the artillery. Fire that one. Now that actually hits the M53. That's a blind hit on that guy. And then we're just going to take our time to reload, aim at the GW, and we get fortunate enough that we one-shot him. We get the full 440 hit points on that guy. T-54, still down there, still trying to shoot us. I don't really care. He's not really got a good shot from there. Because I can actually still, if I angle correctly, I can still shoot that 257. So I'm going to take a shot at him. And there, unfortunately, it's quite unlucky that it goes not quite where we aim. Doesn't pen. Now looking for the upper hull at an angle. Take the shot. Pens the left of the cheeks there. Now I turn around because I can see that I finally noticed that the enemy team have started to push the hill themselves. This Conqueror is dead, unfortunately. He's going to have done no damage at all this match. We need to start dealing with these guys. We need to deal with them quickly. We do have a turtle trying to help, and we do have our G-Saw as well. Our Conqueror is alive for the moment, but spoiler alert, not for much longer. 122 did leave the hill, so now that means there's two one-shot tanks on the enemy team. Friendly CS-59 has arrived as well to try and help. Bounced the shot from the TL-1. He went for the lower side. T-54 did the same. And TL-1 goes for the tracking shot. I know I need to get rid of this guy. I don't want to have like a disadvantage in terms of numbers. The CS-53 decides to shoot it, and the TL-1 gets the lower plate shot. Super Pershing kills our Conqueror, unfortunately. I decide just to push this guy. I can't have this guy staying here. CS gets another shot on us, but teammates start getting shots on him. He's now one shot. G-Saw is trying to help kill him as well. G-Saw is kind of low health, but he's not a one-shot for this. He's potential low roll. Oh, sorry, potential high roll. We managed to keep the G-Saw in the match for a little longer. He's low health, though. Turtle finally dies to the Super Pershing and the IS-3. I start trying to get shots on the IS-3. He's a one-shot for us. We finish him off. Thank you, G-Saw. That was really helpful, actually. That was really useful, keeping him in the match like that. So now just pulling back so we don't get splatted by Arty, so we're unspotted. Going back around this way so I've got a little more cover against the Arty. On 5 kills already, of course a couple of those were low health tanks like the TL-1, though we did make him low health. The CS-53 also low health, and the T-54 low health also. And of course the IS-3 was made a one-shot for us. Now, the T-26C4 is not trying to push us right now, because he just got splatted by one of our TDs. Friendly Waffle kills the E75, so I'm not worried about him anymore. But I do want to get this 122 TM out of the match. There he goes. I want to get another shot on the M103 soon as well. Because, let's face it, we don't want another tier 9 heavy rolling around. And here is where the Super Pershing pushes. You are going to see the gun trolls a bit. That actually hit the little kind of armored flap that you see over the side of the turret, that didn't hit where we aimed. He's firing APCR, so he's not going to have any trouble penning our upper plate or side. I get really unlucky again, and the barrel of the IS-3 actually blocks that shot. We're also firing heat here because we are now out of APCR. You can see what I mean about the ammo capacity. I'm trying to play around the wreck of the IS-3 here because I do want to try and keep my hull covered because I know that he's just going to go through every time. He misses his shot. I take my time to just shoot him in the side, get a nice high roll. That, I think, damages his engine. He manages to only track us, just repair and go for the kill shot here. Took way more damage from this guy than I wanted to, but we got rid of him in the end. Now just taking cover from artillery. RT fires, so now we're going to look for shots on the M103. I'm hoping here that my team can kill that lightweight because he could be really annoying. Unfortunately, instead, the enemy Scorpion kills our Super Pershing. I'm also looking for a shot on the lightweight, but unfortunately, the list is also taken down by the STRV. TL1 pulling back now, and understandably so. I cannot blame him. This is often what happens on a one-line push, by the way. The one line is not very strong from the north spawn. Partially because the south spawn can hold where the lightweight is and just spot for TDs like over and over and over. You see where the STRV is and the Scorpion on K4 there? Yep, that's where they are, and they've got free reign over where the lightweight is. Nice easy shot on the side of the M103. We didn't get spotted until we fired. I'm now trying to move back to get cover from the RT. Unfortunately, he splashes us. We're now a one-shot for basically everything that's left alive other than the lightweight. We spot the 257 rolling in. Definitely need to try and get shots on this guy. Definitely need to try and take him down. Don't have a good shot, but he breaks our gun. So unfortunately, we've got to repair that. RT tries to help. Misses him for 19. That's the Scorpion or the STRV trying to take shots. They're now out towards where the lightweight is, I think. Or at least I thought it was at the time. Scorpion gives us a nice easy shot. We high roll that. I wasn't expecting him to peek like that. But, hey-oh, he did. That at this point is 100% the STRV. RT actually does help a fair bit there. That makes the Scorpion a one-shot for us. Now we do have some blind shots. Here we're around 6,000 damage. Probably just over 6,000. So we're going to try and get shots on the M103 here. Really unfortunate there. I didn't really have much time to aim that one. So I wanted to try and get it off as quickly as possible due to the 257 and Scorpion being where they are. That one actually hit, by the way. That's another blind shot. RT makes the 257 a one-shot for us. Trying to spot the M103, but he is behind a rock. We do not have the ability to spot him. Just pulling back now, trying to get back into a position where I can go hull down on one of these wrecks to try and get as much out of this match as possible, because at this point the match is match is over. There's no way I'm going to win this. The enemy team have too many hit points. 2.7k, which means the STRV is full health. Trying for a shot on the lightweight to try and get rid of him or the M103, but no luck spotting either of them. And here comes the 257, just peeking his head above there, and the STRV is just YOLOing at this point as well. He knows he can just go forward and take a hit. So I decide just to, well, shoot him in the face. Which, fortunately for me, sets him on fire. He shoots my gun barrel. I bounce the 257. I'm going for marks here, so I take the higher damage kill on the Scorpion. And that is the match. This actually ended up being 7,800 damage. Just over, in fact. And then, of course, we got our 8 kills. We got our... Actually, the spotting there is about accurate. That 1,000 assistance, that's pretty much spot on what it was. Of course, it was an ace, because, well, you get the bonus for you know, being one of the last alive and fighting till the end. I think it's like courageous resistance or something like that Wargaming call it. But this shows exactly what this tank can do in the right situations. You can bounce shots, you can absolutely tear people to shreds, you can make people like actually think about their shots as well. Like, that's the thing about this tank, it makes people think when fighting it. It's not that it's really, really strong. As we can see, most of the enemies had no trouble shooting the hull. As we saw from the TL1, the CS53, and the Super Pershing, they all knew where to shoot the hull. But it just takes them time to get the aim on, takes them time to think, and that's when you can just either get trades in, or if they bounce a shot, then you can maybe get an extra shot in as well, if you're lucky. Because obviously people have to have time to react, and this thing is all about forcing people to slow down how they react to this tank. And so if you can force people to have to think about how they engage you, you will have pretty good results about this thing. Obviously, if you can go hull down, this thing's really good. If you can sit hull down at mid-range, this thing will absolutely annihilate people, because you'll have the view range to spot people, you've got a decent gun, you'll have time to aim. It's a good tank. Is it overpowered? Not even close. Not even close. And I would definitely say that there are more flexible tier 9 tanks overall in this game. For example, I would actually say the Conqueror most of the time is actually a better heavy. Same with the AE Phase 1. But definitely this is a good tank. And actually I would say the E75 is a better tank overall than this thing. But this thing does do well if you can make people think, if you can just like throw people's shots off with wiggling your hull if you have to, going hull down, reverse side scraping. Obviously pick your fights, because obviously, like I was saying before, those lower sides, if you're against really big guns like T95s or T30s or Guerrilla 15s, they will auto-pen you. So just pick your fights as well. Hope you guys found this useful, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching, guys.